G'day guys, we've got a physics question for you today where it's asking us under what conditions will a body on an inclined plane have an acceleration of 4.9 meters per second to the negative 2. Okay, so to understand this question or to do this question in an exam, it's best that we understand how all the different forces that are acting on a body on an inclined plane. So we can list all of the different conditions required for this to occur. Okay. So basically what we have is if we have a body, we're calling it with a center of mass, let's call that here. The first thing we should be thinking about is we have gravity which is pulling it down. So this is where we have the force of gravity here. Now, what we have then is we're going to have this gravitational force is going to cause this force into the plane as well as this force parallel to the plane. This force into the plane is going to be balanced by a normal force which is equal and opposite to mg cos theta. So we can actually, let's just write that down. This is just n is going to have to be equal to the opposite. This friction force here is a force that is going in the opposite direction to the motion. The motion will be going down the slope, and this is usually related to the normal force. So the force of friction is usually related to the normal force. So what we can do now is we've got to try and answer this question. So under what conditions will a body on an inclined plane have an acceleration of 4.9 meters per second to the negative 2. So what we have here is our acceleration, which is going to be down the slope, is going to be given to us by this force here, mg sine of theta. So our force parallel to the plane, so let's go force to the plane, is equal to mg sine theta. Cool. Now, we also know that force is equal to mass times acceleration. So acceleration is going to equal force divided by mass. So what we're going to do is to get acceleration down the plane, let's call it AP, is going to be mg sine of theta divided by m. So, if you guys have any kind of mathematical understanding, you'll realize that the m's will cancel out. And we'll be just left with acceleration down the plane is going to equal g sine of theta. Cool. Now, we know that this is going to have to be equal to 4.9 meters a second. So we can write that down. We know that acceleration down the plane has to equal 4.9 to negative 2. So, and we know that gravity is 9.8. So 4.9 has to equal 9.8 times the sine of theta. Great. Now let's take the 9.8 over the other side. We're going to have the sine of theta is equal to 4.9 over 9.8. And then from there what we're going to do is we're going to basically divide both sides by sine. It's a bit of a mouthful. We're going to have theta is equal to sine to the negative 1 of 4.9 over 9.8. Great. And theta is from here. This is a half in the bracket. So sine of a half, theta is going to be equal to pi on 6 or 30 degrees. Okay. So we can write that in. Now, this isn't all the question is asking, because under what conditions will it have an acceleration of this? Okay, so the conditions are, let's just make a little bit of room, we'll put it first, the conditions are number one, theta has to equal 30 degrees. Cool. The second condition is for this to work, this F force of friction here has to be 0. So we can say that the force of friction has to be equal to 0. So basically what that means, it's frictionless. Sorry about my handwriting there, guys. And so as a result, there's no such thing as a frictionless plane. So, this wouldn't work, but we have to caveat this explanation. So if theta has to equal 30, that's going to be the bulk of our marks. But this opposing force of friction has to also be equal to 0. We can't have anything pulling it up in the opposite direction. So, that is all the conditions that we will require for this to accelerate down the slope at 4.9. Now, I hope this video helped, guys. It's not a very complicated question. Intuitively, you can basically, if you know that the sine of theta is the component of mg, which is going down the slope, and you know your absolute values of sine, then it's quite easy. You could almost do this like in your head straight away. But again, I hope this video helped, guys. If it did, give it a thumbs up. I put out new videos all the time. If you'd like, subscribe to my channel. It helps me out. But until next time, guys, enjoy your schoolwork.